Welcome to Hood Politics. In this episode, I will be discussing the murders of Tom and Jackie Hawks. The facts of the case are as follows. Newport Beach is a city located roughly 45 miles south of downtown Los Angeles and neighboring Orange County. Newport Beach is filled with waterfront homes, clothing boutiques, and restaurants. The city is known for its active harbor and water activities, such as surfing, sailing, kayaking, and paddleboarding. Millions of tourists flock to the city every year to visit the Balboa Peninsula and Balboa Island. The city also hosts the annual Newport Beach Film Festival, which attracts an average of 60,000 attendees. Newport Beach is usually a quiet and quaint community, but in 2004, a heinous incident shook the city to its core. Tom and Jackie Hawks met in Arizona in 1986 at a chili cook-off and hit it off immediately. From that point on, the two were inseparable. Tom had two sons, Matt and Ryan, from a previous marriage, and the boys welcomed Jackie with open arms. A few years later, in 1989, Tom and Jackie got married. The wedding was beautiful. Tom and Jackie's closest friends and family members attended the ceremony. After the wedding, Jackie moved in with Tom, Matt, and Ryan, and they officially became a family, so much so that the boys began calling Jackie Mom. When Jackie was 22 years old, she was involved in an accident while riding on the back of her first husband's motorcycle. The accident killed her husband and left her with internal injuries and unable to have children. So when presented with the opportunity to fill a motherly role, she was happy to do so. By the year 2000, Matt and Ryan were grown and had moved out of the home. Tom and Jackie had been saving money for years because they had big plans. The couple wanted to buy a yacht that they could live on and spend their golden years sailing up and down the California and Mexican coastline. Later that year, they purchased a 55-foot yacht named the Well-Deserved. The yacht was in rough shape, but Tom and Jackie spent a lot of time cleaning it, upgrading it, and making it a home. Tom retired soon after, and for the next 2 years, the couple fulfilled their dream of sailing up and down the coastline, capturing a huge portion of their journey on video.
This is Captain Tom Hawks and Well-Deserved. Jackie, hello.
Hi, honey. I'm so glad to be home.
She's home.
In 2004, Matt's wife gave birth to a baby boy named Jace. Tom and Jackie were ecstatic about the birth of their grandson and wanted to be closer to their family back in Arizona, so they decided to sell the yacht and purchase a home on land. In November of that year, the Hawks placed an ad for the sale of their yacht in a fishing magazine. They were asking for around $500,000 and decided against using a broker to avoid the high commission fees. Soon afterwards, a young couple replied to the ad, and within the next few days, the sale was in motion. The Hawks told their sons about the potential buyers and said that they would be in touch once the sale was finalized. But after days of not hearing back from their parents, Matt and Ryan became worried. They began calling Tom and Jackie, but were unable to reach them. Matt and Ryan immediately knew that something was wrong because their parents always kept in touch. They called their Uncle Jim, who was Tom's brother, and told him that they were unable to reach their parents. Jim traveled from his home in San Diego, 90 miles north to Newport Beach, and made his way to the boat docks. He saw the Well-Deserved, but found no sign of Tom and Jackie. While looking around, Jim noticed some oddities, like line hanging off the boat, uncovered controlled panels, and dirty towels in the portholes. Jim knew that Tom kept the boat in pristine condition, so these things were unusual, but Jim figured that Tom and Jackie had sold the yacht, and these things were done by the new owners. Jim wrote a note to the new owners and left it on the boat. The note said that the previous owners are missing, and please give them a call. The next day, a woman named Jennifer De Leon called Jim. She said that she and her husband Skylar had purchased the yacht from the Hawks, and they were also having a hard time getting in touch with them. She said that they had some questions regarding the boat's fuel tanks, but were unable to reach Tom and Jackie. The Hawks had a personal accountant named Trisha. She handled their finances and took care of things like bills and taxes while they were out at sea. Jim contacted Trisha and told her the situation. He asked if Tom and Jackie had deposited a large sum of money into their account recently. Trisha told him that there hadn't been any activity on their account. No deposits, no withdrawals, nothing. From that point, Jim knew something wasn't right. He called the Newport Beach Police Department and reported the Hawks missing. Immediately, Jennifer and Skylar De Leon were the prime suspects because they were the last ones that saw the Hawks. Detectives called in Skylar for an interview. Skylar told them that he replied to the ad, and he and Tom went out for a sea trial, which is basically a test drive for a boat. He went on to say that he liked the yacht and decided to buy it, and later he and Jennifer met with the Hawks, a notary named Kathleen Harris, and a friend of the De Leons named Alonzo McChain, who acted as a witness during the sale. Skylar said after all parties signed the sale document, documents, he handed the Hawks a suitcase full of cash. Tom and Jackie then got into their SUV and drove away. As expected, investigators asked Skyler how did he get the money. He said he was a child star and had appeared in the TV show Power Rangers, and from that show he had made a bunch of money and decided to save it. Later, Skyler changed his story. He said that he had been convicted of an armed burglary, but told investigators that there was more to the story. He said that he robbed a drug dealer and went to jail for it, but before being arrested, he stashed the money and retrieved it upon his release. Skyler said he wanted to use the dirty money to buy the yacht and then sell the yacht for clean money. Investigators were shocked that he would admit to money laundering, but they decided not to charge him for it because he was being so helpful during their investigation. Detectives later interviewed Jennifer, Kathleen, and Alonzo. All of them told the same story regarding the sale, and investigators essentially hit a dead end. Investigators went to the media and published a picture of the Hawks SUV. A couple in Mexico called authorities and said the SUV was parked nearby next to a mobile home. Mexican authorities went to the mobile home and asked the person that answered the door about the SUV. He said that he didn't know Tom or Jackie, but the SUV was given to him by his friend, Skyler De Leon. Investigators used Skyler's admittance to money laundering during their interview as a grounds to arrest him, and after searching his home, police found numerous items belonging to the Hawks, such as their video camera and laptops. Skyler and Jennifer maintained their innocence and claimed that the whole thing was a big misunderstanding. Detectives then decided to conduct follow-up interviews with Kathleen and Alonzo. During Kathleen's interview, she admitted to never actually seeing the Hawks and that she was paid in cash by Skyler to backdate all of the sales documents and that everything had already been signed by the time she notarized them. During Alonzo's follow-up interview, he told investigators the same story as he did during his initial interview, but after being confronted with Kathleen's confession, he decided to tell investigators the truth. Alonzo told investigators that he was a guard at Seal Beach Jail and met Skyler while he was in a work furlough program for the burglary charge. After Skyler's release from the program, he and Alonzo kept in touch. In early November of 2004, Skyler told Alonzo that he was a hitman, but only killed bad people. He told Alonzo that he had a contract on 2 really bad people, and if Alonzo helped him eliminate them, he would give him $1 million. Alonzo was in. Shortly afterwards, Skyler began working at an industrial maintenance company as an electrician's helper. While at the company, Skyler met a man named Myron Gardner. Skyler needed muscle for his plan and believed that Myron could fill the role. Myron was a well-known member of the Long Beach Insane Crips and went by the nickname Fly. He was active in his younger years and spent a huge portion of his life behind bars. His rap sheet included everything from drug possession to involuntary manslaughter. Myron declined Skyler's offer, but he recommended another man for the job, a man named John Fitzgerald Kennedy. John was also a well-known member of the Insane Crips and went by the nickname Crazy John, or CJ for short. He was viewed as a father figure in the gang. John was no stranger to crime and had accumulated 21 arrests by the time he was 40 years old. His rap sheet included things like battery, grand theft, drug sales, and attempted murder. Skyler explained the plan to John, and John was in. On November 15th, Skyler, Alonzo, and John made their way to the Newport docks to meet the Hawks for a sea trial. John purchased some new clothes and pretended to be Skyler's accountant. Upon meeting the man, Tom immediately became apprehensive and Skyler sensed it. Skyler then stepped away from the group and called Jennifer. Shortly afterwards, Jennifer pulled into the parking lot along with their 1-year-old daughter, and soon as she arrived, the dynamic completely changed. Tom began to let his guard down. Jackie immediately began gushing over the baby, and before long, everyone was headed to the yacht, but right before boarding, Jennifer told the group that the baby was upset and that she had to take her home. The Hawks, Skyler, Alonzo, and John boarded the boat and headed out to sea. Once Tom had driven the boat a decent distance from land, Skyler and John told him that they had to show him something downstairs. Once the group made it downstairs, Skyler and John pounced on Tom. John grabbed him by the throat and put him in a headlock, while Skyler pulled out a stun gun and kicked him in the face. Meanwhile, in the kitchen area, Alonzo wrestled Jackie to the floor and handcuffed her. Skyler and John then went upstairs, grabbed Jackie, and took her to the downstairs bedroom where Tom was also handcuffed. Skyler told Alonzo to tape their mouth and eyes while he went upstairs and drove the boat further out to sea. Alonzo recalled seeing Tom maneuver his arms so that he was able to hold Jackie's hand. He told her that everything would be okay. Shortly afterwards, the boat came to a stop, and Skyler yelled down for Alonzo and John to bring Tom and Jackie upstairs. Skyler then had Tom and Jackie sign over ownership of the boat and access to their bank accounts. Jackie left the letter S arrest off of Hawks while signing one of the documents. Investigators believed that it was a deliberate signal to show that she was under duress. After the documents were signed, Tom and Jackie were taken to the back of the boat. Skylar told Alonzo to go get the anchor, and upon hearing that, Jackie began pleading for Skylar to let them go. Skylar then connected the end of the anchor's chain to Tom and Jackie's handcuffs. Tom was able to maneuver his body and kick Skylar so hard that he fell to the floor. John then punched Tom in the side of his head and his body went limp. Skylar stood up, picked up the anchor, and threw it overboard. Skylar, Alonzo, and John looked on as the chain went into the sea, and after a few seconds, the chain tightened, and Tom and Jackie began being pulled across the deck. The Hawks fought as hard as they could, but the force proved to be too much. The couple was pulled into the ocean. Both of them were still alive as they plunged over 3,000 feet into the sea.
Thomas Hawks and Jackie Hawks are here. Thomas Hawks' belly's to her back. They're tied up, handcuffed. I'm assuming they brought the anchor back this way. He mule kicks Skylar here, and JFK is somewhere in this area where he punches Thomas Hawk. Now, Alonzo says that he goes limp as if he went unconscious or at least stunned. She being Jackie is screaming through her tape, through the tape now, because now she's supporting her husband's weight, doesn't know what's going on. It's underway, the boat's underway, it's cold, it's at nighttime, and as soon as JFK hits them and they fall, Skylar gets back up, picks up the anchor, walks back here and tosses it right out, and it's feeding the line that they've tied to them, and they're knocked down because JFK had hit them, pushed them down, and then they get that's the line feeds out and just throws them right out, and apparently she strikes, from his description, very hard on this corner right here.
Mercifully, maybe she was.
You know what? Once again, I try to sanitize it, thinking, please, that both of them were unconscious. You hope that they didn't suffer more than they already had to.
Alonzo says Skylar cheered after the couple was pulled in and looked over the railing with excitement. He then drove the boat back to the docks. The three divided up $3,600 that was on the boat. On the way back to Newport, John grabbed a drink, a rod, and went fishing. Investigators later discovered that Jennifer was essentially the mastermind in the plot, and she intentionally showed up to the meeting with the baby in order to disarm the Hawks and get them on the boat. She knew that they were going to be killed, and Skylar had made numerous calls to her before, during, and after the attack on the Hawks. The couple then drove the Hawks SUV to Arizona and attempted to withdraw money from their bank account, but were denied access. Afterwards, they drove the SUV to Mexico and tried to access the Hawks account again, but were denied for a second time. At that point, they left the SUV in Mexico, where it was spotted by the couple a few weeks later. Skylar, Jennifer, Alonzo, Myron, and John were all arrested, and each of them were charged with the murders of Tom and Jackie Hawks. Skylar was also charged with the 2003 murder of a man named John Jarvie. Skylar met John while he was in the work furlough program and sold him on an investment opportunity. John refinanced his condo and was able to secure $50,000 in cash. John told his mother that he had an investment opportunity and that he was going to Mexico with a friend to seal the deal. John's body was later found near a highway in Mexico. Myron Gardner was offered a plea deal. He pled guilty to accessory after the fact and was sentenced to time served. Alonzo McChain was offered a plea deal in exchange for his testimony. He pled guilty to 2 counts of voluntary manslaughter, 2 counts of robbery, and 2 counts of kidnapping. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Jennifer De Leon, Skylar De Leon, and John Fitzgerald Kennedy were each found guilty with the murders of Tom and Jackie Hawks. Skylar was also found guilty with the murder of John Jarvie. Jennifer De Leon was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Skylar De Leon was sentenced to death. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was sentenced to death. Many were shocked to hear that John played a role in this crime. They knew that he wasn't a saint by any means, but murdering a couple off the coast of Newport seemed out of his wheelhouse. Also, it seemed like John had turned his life around. In the year 2000, a pastor named Leon Wood Jr. approached a group of men as they sat in a park. He told them about his mission to change the face of North Long Beach and to put kids on the straight and narrow. John was among that group of men and took heed to the pastor's words. For the next 5 years, John was with Pastor Wood every Wednesday and Sunday, working with at-risk youth and speaking the word. Pastor Wood was John's main character witness during the trial and told the court that John was very active in church and was training to be a young pastor. Pastor Wood was aware of John's past and knew that it would give him credibility and a connection to those still in the streets. John worked with the elderly and handed out turkeys on Thanksgiving. He also had done security for rappers like Snoop Dogg, Warren G, and Nate Dogg. John was approached by Skylar and told that he would be paid millions if he accepted his offer, but ultimately he was only paid a few $100s for his role in the murders. At the time of this video, John Fitzgerald Kennedy sits on death row in San Quentin State Prison. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe.